Apple's big opportunity in iPhone is to take market share away from Android rather than to just focus on services. I think the services play, it's going to matter, but I don't expect miracles to happen quickly there. What I think they're trying to do now is to move away from the strategy when the industry was growing, which focused on App Store and iTunes, to focusing on the place where they have the greatest competitive advantage over Android, which is privacy. And I think all of this news, we're going to talk in a few minutes about state attorneys general coming after Google and Facebook. I think all of this news around privacy really plays to Apple's hand. And if we look at iOS 13, it doesn't really matter what the hardware is that it runs on. The advantages on privacy and security are becoming so huge that I really think people will not miss them. They will not ignore that difference any longer. And I'm actually more hopeful on Apple's ability to gain share than I think is the conventional wisdom, but it remains to be seen.
Rogers, is this a rebuilding year, though? I mean, you look at 5G is arguably coming next year, and so that cycle should be bigger than this one. Apple's got a stable and loyal base, but I don't know that anybody expects that this iPhone season is going to blow the doors off, even if they do gain some high-end share for Android.
Yeah, John, I think that's exactly right. I mean, for people who care about features, Android's got some significant advantages right now. And Apple will, in 2020, do a lot of the things that Android is bringing to market piecemeal in 2019. I don't think any of that's really going to matter. I think at the end of the day, people are going to make choices on platforms relative to how important they think privacy is. And people who value privacy are going to be increasingly iPhone adopters. And the thing that I discover when I talk to people in the field is that there are a lot of long-time Android people who are beginning to rethink that as news comes out about what happens to the stuff that you have on an Android, how, things wind up in your Facebook account or wind up in other places without you realizing it. And so I don't know that Apple can be successful with this focus in iOS 13 on privacy, but I am, as a consumer, really interested in it. I think the Apple Card is a really important step on privacy, particularly in combination with Apple Pay, and that Apple's advantage there is a really big deal. But I think, John, the way you're framing this from a hardware point of view, this is probably not going to be a big deal.
Just to dig into privacy quickly, Roger, a little bit more here, and I know you just mentioned Apple Card, which is a good example of this, but do you think Apple's actually really communicating enough just how important privacy is and how important it is to its business model?
I don't think so. I think that's exactly the right question. I think Apple has been culturally in this metaphor of show, don't tell for so long that at this moment in time when telling actually could be really advantageous, they don't have the muscle tone fully down. When I talk to people inside Apple, I think they're very aware of this issue, and I just think that it's a big company, and so it's hard to make that change. I wish they would be more explicit about this stuff, and I think that the flurry of news last week when Google pointed out the security flaw that was taking place, and then Apple had to respond by pointing out that it was in China and mostly targeted at the Uyghur minority in China, that it felt to me like a really significant change in Apple's communication strategy, that they, on this one issue, I think are going to be more proactive. So my fingers are crossed as a shareholder that they're going to be more forceful in making these points, because it's pretty obvious that Google's going to take advantage of any weakness to criticize Apple.